Hi, it's me, Eino, as promised, from my home studio, um, bringing to you a Q&A video based on the questions that you submitted to my talk. First and foremost, thanks so much for all the questions. There were in fact so many of them that I had to do a bit of trimming, and I'm going to focus on the questions that were specifically about game design, because my talk was about game design, and I'll save the rest of the questions for later. If there happens to be loud noises like drilling noises or hammering noises in the background of the video, I apologize. It is because our building company, in their infinite wisdom, decided to start exterior renovations this week, and they'll continue for 4 months. So fun times. Anyway, let's get to the meat of this video, which is answering the questions that you guys submitted. I take this to refer to the fact that we have some tasks in the season challenges that are specific to higher levels. So they require a troop that you can only unlock on higher levels, or you need to destroy buildings that are only appearing targets that are encountered on higher levels. And this was a conscious decision from us to include these kind of tasks in the mix. And the reason is that we want variety in the challenges. And we get that by having different kinds of challenges available. The high level players naturally will be able to complete everything, but the drawback is that low level players might not be able to complete all the tasks. We realized this when we were implementing the system, and the workaround is that there actually are plenty of points available. So don't feel too bad. There will be enough points for you to complete the whole run of season challenges every season, even if you are a low level player. That should be pretty much guaranteed every season. Build-A-Base, when it came out, it was a big event, and I think there had been a long time since the previous update when it came out, and it made a big splash. We got a lot of players coming back to the game. I think anytime something that big and that exciting is pushed out, it will just kind of reach a lot of people, and a lot of people will return. That said, Build-A-Base was actually released over 2 years before, or like roughly 2 years before we did the Gold Pass. And unfortunately, a lot of these players who came back did leave in between. So the short answer is it probably didn't have a large bearing on the state of the game at the time we released Gold Pass. I think this is a great question. It touches on actually one of the core kind of questions about operating a very long-running game. And my answer to it is that I actually alluded to it in the video as well. We have been speeding things up along in the early game to help people progress. This has been a very conscious decision, because we also realize that as we add more stuff in the game, the journey will become longer, and that's not great, because we don't want to create these kind of two classes of players where if you start now, you can never get to the end game. That's definitely not something we want. And going further from here, I think whenever we will add new content, we will also keep an eye on the total length of the journey. We don't want you to stop playing early on in the game, because we have a lot of content. We want you to get to experience that content, and we will make sure that that continues to be so in the future. I think another thing that we could be doing as well is adding sort of horizontal paths as well. So maybe not all of the new things that we add, maybe they don't need to come in the end of the game. Maybe they can actually be available already earlier, but we'll look at that case by case. I would answer this by saying that in true Supercell style, there is no set in stone process. In the Clash team, we usually start with goals. So there's some things that we want to achieve with any kind of new content that we add. And with Town Hall levels, our aim has been to make exciting content that is also fresh and adds new elements to the game. But at the same time, we kind of feel that new content should be very relatable and it should be familiar enough so that everyone sort of can fall in love with it as well. When we actually get to work on the actual content based on the goals, it varies a lot. Sometimes individual people come up with great ideas and everyone just jumps on the bandwagon, or sometimes we brainstorm with the whole team to come up with the angles and hone the ideas together. And overall, we have a pretty high bar, and since we have full control over what we do, we usually work on our ideas until we feel that they're good enough. Super Troops are a great way for us to add fresh gameplay elements to the game in a flexible manner. And since we have already quite a lot of troops in the game, we didn't want to, and we want to keep adding new troops, we didn't want to add more complexity by just kind of offloading a bunch of new permanent troops. Super Troops felt like a good way to add more options to the players, but still having restrictions like having one troop available at a time to just make it more manageable and straightforward and understandable. One other thing that is nice for us with Super Troops is that it provides us provides the high-level players a way to spend their Dark Elixir after they're done with laboratory and hero upgrades, which in the past wasn't actually possible. You would end up with full Dark Elixir storages. So Super Troops actually give you a way to work around that. So in the last update, we made some skins, Gold Pass skins, available from 1 year ago with gems. And we did this because there was a lot of demand. A lot of players approached us and said, we would like to I didn't have a chance to get the skin a year ago. I wasn't playing at the time. Please, can I get it somehow? When we considered this and decided that we will bring them back with gems. And basically the reason is why we did it is that we didn't want to punish players that start playing later by having skins that they can't get. And we will continue bringing Gold Pass skins, making them available in the future as well. But we will follow a rule that at least 1 year has to have passed before something comes available. So Gold Pass purchasers will be able to play with the skin for a year before anyone else has a chance to get it. It's not a stupid question at all. It's a pretty good question, actually. But hopefully I can kind of shed a bit of light on that. I think when you work on something long enough, there's a couple of different angles to this, but one is that when you work on something long enough, there's a natural tendency to kind of search for new exciting angles. And game developers are very excitable. We always want to create new experiences and introduce new ideas, and over time, when you do that enough, that can actually push you off course from the original sort of foundations of your game. And it happens really easily. It's very sort of a stealthy thing that happens just if you don't pay attention. Another thing that contributes to this is that sometimes people in the team change. In a long-running game like Clash of Clans, there's been a lot of change over the years. There's only a couple of people in the team who have been in the team for the very early days. And when this happens, then the newcomers, if they're not onboarded well to the team or the game, they might not agree fully on what the core of the game is, and then they might start taking it to a different direction. And this is all normal. This happens all the time, and it's just something that you need to watch out for. I think the answer is not to stop innovating. I think you do need to innovate. You do need to get new ideas into the game to keep players happy and excited and engaged. But I think the key is to innovate around your core and not away from your core. And don't get me wrong, this gets harder and harder the longer the game has been around, but also it's a super cool challenge to work on. And you really have to push yourself to kind of keep reinventing around the core. Like I mentioned in the talk, I think the thing we try to do is we try to collect all the intel we can get, take feedback, collect evidence, listen to as many sources of input as you can, and then try to kind of build a cohesive picture of how things are from those things. And once we sort of have this cohesive picture of how things are, then that helps us as a team to figure out where the biggest problems and the biggest opportunities are, and what would it take to actually start tackling those. Usually this is a kind of continuous process where we kind of work on it all the time and talk about what we could be working on all the time. And out of those conversations, we have a rough roadmap of what we would actually want to do in the coming updates. But that's something that we constantly actually validate with the team. After every update, we talk about, is this still the right priority for the next update? And sometimes we make changes because there's new information, new things have come up, and we have actually a better target on what to work on. It's easy. Coffee. 100% coffee. I think drink way too much coffee every day. Maybe a little bit of context on how esports started for us. So, like I mentioned in the presentation, with the Clan War Leagues, we wanted to create an end game for Clan Wars. And once we had done that, it actually, we realized that it provides a super cool and easy kind of a fit structure for esports. And it allows us to really kind of transition to doing esports really easily. But esports didn't really come up from nothing for us. Esports was already there before we sort of started supporting it through the game. Community tournaments have been around for a long time before we actually started doing those. So those guys are the true pioneers of Clash esports. But just kind of as a caveat, I'm just talking about Clash esports here because all the teams at Supercell are independent and everyone makes their own calls. So this is just about us. But yeah, back to the community point. I don't think we would do esports if the community wasn't actually passionate about it. So if we didn't have already these community leagues paving the way, showing that there's actually a lot of people interested in doing this, and us also seeing the competitive urges in the game, we wouldn't be doing esports. We're doing esports because of the community, and we're doing it as a sort of we're doing it because the community definitely wants it. It's not really a business proposition. We're not in it for the sponsorship money. It's just for the community. When it comes to the qualifier numbers, I think, yeah, we can definitely improve. It's not a great percentage yet, but on the other hand, I'm not too concerned. It's very early days for us, and there's a lot of stuff that we can do better. So I'm sure that we will also step up our game in that. I hear you. As it stands, I think we also feel that the builder base doesn't have as clear of an identity as it should in the game. And we're experimenting with some things. In the last update, we introduced some changes to the builder base, like instant training times, and we'll try to kind of over time find a better place for builder base and make it more integrated as an experience. Before I dive into this question, I think people maybe need a bit of context on what Operation Blue Skies means. Operation Blue Skies was the code name for our Legend League rework that happened last year before the summer holiday, so in 2019. It was the next update after the Gold Pass release. And with the Legend League rework, we were tackling one of the oldest problems in the game, which was that the matchmaking times at the very top of the game in the multiplayer matchmaking were totally out of hand. And if you wanted to play Clash of Clans competitively in the multiplayer ladder, you needed to be prepared to spend maybe up to 8 hours at a time in matchmaking. How we tackled this is that nowadays, once you enter Legend League, instead of having to matchmake every time you want to attack, we matchmake automatically at the beginning of each day. We matchmake 8 targets for you, and you can take those attacks at any point in the day. So at any time that it suits you, you can attack these targets. The drawback is that you can only do eight attacks, but it was the problem was pretty tough, and this was after a long deliberation and a lot of different ideas and proposals, also some that we got from the community, we landed on this as the best option to kind of tackle the problem with least negative effects. Talking about negative effects, I think we did shake up the game a lot for the old timers that had been sort of loyally playing Legend League since the beginning, and apologies for that. It was necessary to actually widen the experience and include more people into it. I don't think we could have done it any other way. And when it comes to the success of the feature, I think we consider it successful because we have more players than ever before in Legend League nowadays, and it's more than double the amount that we had previously. So more people have actually found enjoyment in the competitive aspects of Clash now that Legend League isn't such a massive investment of time and patience as it was previously. So that's it. Thanks so much for the questions. It was nice answering them. And until next time, Clash on.